Something strange happens as time passes. Days begin to blur. Weeks collapse. Years feel thinner than they should. But here's the unsettling part. It doesn't happen all at once. Time doesn't suddenly speed up. It slips, quietly, unevenly. And most people never notice when it starts. In this video, we're not going to talk about motivation, or productivity, or memory tricks. We're going to look at something more uncomfortable. Why the brain slowly stops updating reality the way it once did. Why time still passes, but feels less registered. And why a scientific study from a few years ago accidentally revealed how this process begins. In 2021, researchers led by Martin Reamer published a study on time perception and aging. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Another experiment about judging durations. But what they changed was subtle and revealing. They moved time perception out of sterile laboratory tasks and into environments that look more like real life. Most time perception experiments are simple. A tone plays, a dot flashes, a button is pressed. These tasks strip away context. They remove background noise, motion, meaning. They make time easy to isolate. Reamer and his colleagues did the opposite. They embedded time judgments inside visually rich, natural scenes. Scenes with depth, movement, irrelevant detail. Scenes that look familiar. The clock stayed the same. The duration stayed the same. Only the world around it changed. And that's when something unexpected happened. Younger participants became more accurate inside these natural scenes. Older participants became less precise. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, but consistently. Time perception didn't fail in isolation. It failed in context. This result was unsettling because it contradicted decades of lab findings. In controlled settings, older adults often perform nearly as well as younger adults at timing tasks. So why would realism, something closer to everyday life, make time perception worse with age? The answer wasn't memory. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't reaction speed. It was filtering. Time perception depends on detecting change. Not clocks, not numbers. Change, movement, variation, shifts in sensory input. The brain estimates time by counting how much difference it registers. Natural environments contain too much difference. They move. They distract. They compete for attention. To judge time accurately, the brain must suppress most of what it sees. With age, suppression becomes selective. The brain doesn't process less. It chooses more carefully what is worth processing. This makes perception more stable, but less detailed. And time depends on detail. The study reveals something subtle. Aging doesn't break time perception. It changes how much of reality is allowed to influence it. Updating perception is expensive. Every time the brain revises its internal model of the world, it spends energy. Metabolic energy. Neural energy. Revision is work. Maintaining an existing interpretation costs less. So the brain begins to favor what it already understands. Old interpretations stay active even when conditions shift. Not because the brain is rigid, but because it is efficient. Stability isn't accuracy, it's cost reduction. This creates a strange illusion. The world feels consistent, predictable, familiar. But it's not because nothing is changing. It's because the brain is slower to revise its model of those changes. This also explains why aging effects often disappear in laboratories. Labs remove context. They simplify perception. They make revision cheap. Real life does the opposite. In daily life, the brain must constantly decide what to keep and what to discard. With age, it discards more. Not randomly, strategically. Time doesn't vanish. It loses texture. This is why a day can feel short even when nothing special happened. Why weeks collapse into a single impression. Why moments still feel emotional, but less distinct. The brain records fewer perceptual landmarks, fewer internal updates, so time compresses. Time doesn't feel faster because life is shorter. It feels faster because fewer revisions occur. This also explains why novelty still stretches time. Travel, unfamiliar places, unexpected situations. They overwhelm existing models. They force revision. Time expands when the productivity choice but to update. None of this is a flaw. It's a trade-off. The brain prioritizes stability over constant recalculation. It doesn't resist change because it can't adapt. It resists change because adaptation is costly. So reality updates. Every moment you've lived still carries weight. Time may feel different now, but it hasn't lost value. What you've experienced is real, and it remains part of the system. Time doesn't erase meaning. It compresses it. And everything you've lived still counts.